And welcome to the stream today, everyone. I hope you are doing fine. And on Tuesday after the stream, the day before yesterday, I already ordered the new PCBs. Hey Vio, how's it going? Which should turn up next week. And I also ordered enough materials to be able to make at least 3 of the prototypes. Hey Johnny, how are you doing? Also, for this stream today I changed the stream settings a little bit to the lower latency, not the extreme low latency, and that should increase the quality of the stream. Hi, doing some 3D modeling, so we'll mostly listen. Oh, that's fine, Hendrik. How are you? Yeah, next week we could technically make 3 of these triangles, and I will probably build them on stream. I ordered a few of the ATtinies and another batch of 20 of the LEDs locally, so because I did not receive the 1000 LEDs yet. Anything exciting, Henrik? Johnny asks. Today we will be focusing on programming mostly the controller, because the tile code is pretty much done. There might be a few things I will add, or one thing I will add to the tile code, but more on that later. Because technically there's an issue with the tiles, or not an issue, but technically all the tiles don't update at the same time. So I was thinking about adding new commands which put in or clock in the data for the LEDs, which are then held in the microcontroller. And once I want to update the whole wall, I can then send one command to all tiles so they clock out the data. Instead of now where the tile is just displaying directly the data it got. So let me switch the screen. And here we are with the code of the controller. So I already programmed a little bit today. Oh no, this is the code of the controller. Yeah. Oh, fancy. A case for a bench power supply. Neat. So since we need to, or since the idea was to be able to figure out the whole structure of the LED wall and how the tiles interconnect, in order to be able to display animations correctly and such, so we need to know the orientation of a tile and how tiles are attached together, in order to then, if we have an animation that should be displayed on all tiles, it can be interpolated to the specific tiles, and you can pretty much play the same animation on different let's say configurations of tiles. So for example, you could have a circle and have some color animation, or you could make a square or a rectangle and always have the same animation, and it will just be displayed the same. Or for example, if you remove one of the tiles and turn it or turn the sides around and then plug it back in, that it will still display the data correctly. But this will only work after a reboot, because there's no way for knowing after the whole wall has been set up whether a tile is unconfigured. But maybe there could be a way of doing it while the thing is running, but that also might introduce some issues with the update timing. So as I already told, or in the previous stream, that the tile has multiple commands for setting it up. So the first command we use is the call unconfigured tile. So hot plug sounds like a bit overkill. Yeah, hot plug, not hot plug maybe, but you can pretty much just don't care about the orientation of tiles while putting it together, and the controller will afterwards, if you power it up, figure that out for you, and then you are fine. So you don't have to be like, all right, I always have to put side A on the bottom, and if I turn it, then side A needs to go to the left or something like that, which you won't have to do then. So for Bitloony's wall, you have to configure the interconnections between the panels. And for this one, you don't have to do anything. You just put together the tiles, plug them in together or on the wall, and then just throw in the controller and you are done. Because the controller will handle the rest. But that makes the programming of the controller a little bit more complicated. And the first function for that is the call unconfigured tile. So whenever the ID of the tile is 0, which is the default state of the software, and not one side of the tile is set, that's something different, then if we get this command, the tile will check if one of the 3 sides are pulled low, because the sides are set to pull up. We will invert that value, and if any of the sides is 1, so pulled low because we need to invert it, then we will answer with a message starting with our starting identifier for these messages, so we know the message is from a tile. Then we reply always the message ID for the command we received, and then we send out which sides were pulled low, because technically one side or any of the sides, multiple of the sides, or all sides could be pulled low, and that way we can figure out the orientation and the interconnections with other tiles. And if this is sent back to the controller, so we will do find tiles, which will do call tile, and the call tile will try 5 times, 5 times, to see whether there is a tile, and then also get its orientation. So for that we will send the command 010A, so 01 and the end 0A, which is the return. And then the tile should answer, so we read in 4 bytes. The serial read bytes already does a timeout. So the hardware serial is also a stream, and the stream has a timeout, and the timeout is 1 second default. So it will try with a timeout of 1 second to read the bytes from the serial and then return to us the 4 bytes. If we receive the 4 bytes, we will try and see if the first byte is the tile command byte, the second byte is the command we just sent, and whether the third byte is the return byte. That way we make sure that the reply was received correctly. And if that is true, we return the tile sites we got. Tile sites is another class that I temporarily put in here. It gets constructed with a byte, and then we'll check which side was set. So side A is data and a bitwise end and 0, 1. Side B is 0, 2, and side C is 4, so bit 1, bit 2, and bit 3. And then this class object, with that we can then later on easily see which sides have been set. This tile sides is then returned as an optional. So with these curly braces, I'm here instantiating an optional and here an empty optional. The optional implementation is actually one a friend made of me, or a friend of me made, and it's a pretty simple optional. It has an empty tag, a union, and the boolean is empty. The union can either be the value, and the empty tag, the union can either be the value we set the optional to or the empty tag in the case where there is no value in the optional. And then we just have two constructors. The whole class is a template, so it works with different objects or types. And then we can use the boolean operator, we can just use if and then an instance of optional and check if it is present, or we can use is empty or is present, whether we need inverted logic or not. And then afterwards we can get the object from that. So this function will return an optional tile sides. So, hey Dustin, how's it going? Good evening. So we will read the bytes, and if all criteria is met, the tile sides thing is being constructed and returned as an optional. And if we don't get an answer at all, we just return an empty optional. So this is a pretty simple code. So we get the optional, we check if the optional is present. If the optional is present, there's still some code missing, obviously, because we need to store the data in a tree set or something like that, or in a tree structure. Well, if we got some sides, this is only for the prototype. We set the tile ID to current tile ID, so the first tile will always be 1. And the set tile ID will pretty much do the same as the call tile. It will try 5 times to send the set tile ID command. Let's change it a little bit. It will write the command ID, the tile should be set to, and as well the return. We then read 4 bytes as the answer, which is again the 81 to indicate a tile command. The 2 is just the same as the command we sent. The tile will also send back its ID. So we will keep that in mind, which ID we send, and check that way if the ID is correct or not. Maybe this needs to be an extra case, so we can't use a boolean, so we need to differentiate between ID was right or ID was wrong. In the case where ID is right, we can just return true, that the set command was successful, and if the 5 times we didn't set the ID, will just return false. And those are pretty much the first things we need to do to set up everything. So I was mentioning the where was it? I was mentioning the side set. So the controller will be connected to the first tile, and it will connect the serial port as well as the tile selection wire. And if we pull that low, the controller will then select the first tile it is connected to. That way the tile is allowed to answer, because then we will get the tile sides thing, if you remember. And the set tiles command, so if we are done here. We found our first tile and set the tile ID correctly. Then we will need to recursively do the same again for all tiles. So what we do, if we set the first tile ID, we then set one of the tile sides to low with the set side command, and then the tile will set or will select the next tile it is connected to, and we as the controller can select which side should be set low. So imagine if we have one triangle or one tile and the controller is connected on the bottom. It will then first select this tile by pulling the line down here low, and from the side the triangle has, we can determine to which side it has been connected. That way we can figure out what the orientation of the tile is. And if that tile has been set up, the controller will, let's say, set this side to low, and then it will try to find a tile which is connected to here. If it doesn't find one, it will go to the other side and set that one low, and if it finds a tile right here, it will then configure the tile and then do the same all over again until we found all the tiles that can be connected. And then we need to store these informations, like which orientation the tile is and which tile is connected to which side to another tile. And if we have that information and store it in a tree or something like that, we can then for example, for an animation where just the tiles light up in order or something like that, or where all the tiles light up by sweeping a color from left to right, just an example, then we can interpolate these orientations and such to set the tiles to the correct color at the correct position. And if we keep in mind that we can also control each LED inside the tile separately, we can then do really crazy animations, because then it doesn't matter which way the triangle is oriented at. And yeah, but there's a lot to do before we can get into that. So this is the simplest setup right now, which will only work for a single tile. But as you can see over there, our tile is currently lighting up in red, which means it's unconfigured. And this is an issue which we now need to fix, because the code I've discussed right now, and which is on the screen here, is already on the ESP, but it doesn't work. So if I open up the real terms terminal, we should be able to see all the data on the bus, because we connected the serial. We connected the serial to a one-wire serial, like I don't know if I need to go over this again, but this was the multi-drop one-wire thingy-majig. This is not the one. Oh, this is also not the one. Yeah, this is the one. So all the tiles are connected as this, as well as the master. So if we look at the RX line, we can see all the data which is on the whole bus, even the commands which come from the master. So, and this might already be the first problem, because here you can see I will send a return character at the beginning to clear all the data in all tiles, because then they will try to pass the command, which they can't. And after that I will send the command 010A, and then again and again and again, but I maybe need to make this larger. We can increase the font right here. I think that's better now for the stream. So you can see we are sending 0A to clear the bus, and then 5 times the command, but we don't get an answer. And what I think is going on here is that since the since the Rx and Tx of the ESP are connected in a way which would be called loopback, it could technically fill its own receive buffer with the data it just sent. So the read bytes command will receive the first 2 bytes, which are 010A, and then it will receive 81 and 01, and that might mess it up. So we might not be able to do it this way with serial read bytes. What we could do is try and do serial flush before calling this right after serial write, which should flush the data we sent to ourselves. This could be one thing we could try, and if this doesn't work, we might need to do... Alright, no, this is the implementation, I think. Read bytes, maybe. This should be the hardware serial implementation. Even though serial is part of stream. So I don't know what the compiler will use, but I will stick to this code right here. So we might need to do something similar to this, where we skip the data we sent ourselves. And we can do that because we know what we sent. So we can just filter out these 2 bytes and then try and find the others. But for now, I will think we will do a serial.flush, which should clear the receive buffer. Let's look at it. Let's go to the definition of that. No, there's no code documentation. Nice. If not TX enabled, yeah, TX is enabled. UART get bit length, data with UART wait TX empty, workaround for bug is not actually being finished yet. Flush clears the transmit buffer. Can we clear the Rx buffer? Maybe we will do... Could technically do something like this. We just do serial read bytes 2, which should read these 2 bytes, and then after that read bytes 4, which technically should work. We need to do the same for the other, but here we need to do read bytes 3. Okay, but I don't think it's implemented in serial. Let's upload that real quick and see what happens. Is this connected? No, that was connected, so this won't work. Might need to pay close attention to what the LEDs are doing. Oh, yeah. We need to remove the wire right here. Which is a pain, because I will need to run over here and plug this wire back in every time we want to update the code. Let's open the terminal right here again. Alright, so this actually fixed it, I think. Because now we are seeing the data of the colors, and yeah, the color should only be activated if we found and configured a tile. So if I stop the controller now and the tile is still configured, it won't find a tile and then just do nothing and sit there. Yeah, you can see it trying to find the tile. So this pretty much fixed it. Let's clear the serial for a second, and I will just reset the microcontroller. Thinking about what would be the best way of doing that. Right, so now the microcontroller is in the setup state. So if I release the ESP right now, you can see that it pretty much instantly finds the tile, configures it, and then starts sending the color data, which is nice. Alright, so let's close this. So this was an easy fix. Interestingly though, we did not see the reply of the microcontroller on the bus, which I would have thought we would be able to see, because we send a command and receive the reply, and while listening on the bus, all the bus lines are connected together. So we should see what the microcontroller sent, but we did not see that. Which is also weird. But one thing that I wanted to do right now is just remove this color cycle thingy code and upload that, because I want to see the serial interaction for 1 second. Because with all the data going through, it's pretty hard to see anything that's going on. But as we already see, we have an issue. If the controller crashes for some reason, the whole wall will become unusable, because we need to figure out whether there is a tile or there is an already configured tile, which makes a difference. Because the already configured tiles won't answer to the call tile command, but they will answer to other commands. But if the first tile is already configured, then probably most of the other tiles are also already configured. So we need to go through all identifiers which are available and then try to find tiles. And then we need to recover and try to find out how they are interconnected, which will also be a tricky thing. But Alright, so first I will open the serial connection. Then I will reset the ESP and hold down the reset line, and then once again reset the microcontroller. I should probably use a push button or something like that. So if I now let go, oh, access violation. That's a new one. Oh no. Now I have to close real term. Real term. Now all the settings are gone, so 20 hex, half duplex, port, open, closed, open. Alright, so now we will try the thing again. Alright, hold down the ESP, reset the microcontroller, and then I will let loose. And then you can see it switches to green whenever a tile has been configured. It will just light up green. So we have a whole wall of them. We can see how the ESP will go through the tree structure and find its way through the tiles. And we can also now see what data has been sent, though this data looks a little bit odd to me. Yeah, I didn't change the baud rate. All right, let's do that again. Reset that. Replug that. Let loose. All right, that looks a lot better. So we see the ESP sends its clear data command, then the call tile command, another call tile command, another call tile command, another call tile command. All right, this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and then so 4 commands might not be enough. Hello Ben, how's it going? So if it already takes 4 tries, why would it take 4 tries? I wonder. And why don't we see the data from the microcontroller? Or is it because we only R.5 shows outgoing chars internal? Oh, wait. Let's clear that again. Reset that here. Do we now get the replies? 0 and 0, 1. No. We only see what the ESP is sending, which is right. Yeah. From the computer standpoint of view, that is the correct behavior, because the send part would be the receiving part would be receiving the data from the PC, so we can't really look into the bus. But this time it took 1, 2, 3, 4 commands again. Interesting. What does that tell us? Oh, also a big shout out to Johnny for sending me his programmer, which already arrived today. He promised it on Tuesday, I think. And it just came in today and it's already hooked up. And the microcontroller and the LEDs are powered from the programmer. So many thanks again, Johnny. Your programmer has worked so far flawlessly, and I think that will stay that way. I already removed the old USB AVR ESP82, which should be MK2. Which is a really bad product. You should not buy that. Get the Admiral Eyes or ask Johnny if he will send you one of his programs. If he's generous. But yeah, I would never buy that thing again. It has given me more trouble than solved problems. That Chinesium crap, yeah. The warranty void is also in Chinese. I don't know if you can see that. Yours is Swedishium. Yeah, it's great like Swedish chocolate. Like the Marabou. I think that's Swedish chocolate. Yeah, the one you buy at IKEA. Well, I can't. No, probably I should not have said that on stream because now that is more an ad for the company. So there's also other great chocolate like Milka or Schogetten or something like that. So I need to name a few of those now. You want to stay political correct in that regard. Alright, so this is working, the tile lights up green. The issue now is the code for the rest of the tiles will be a bit more complicated and will also be a little bit easier to test once we have more than one tile, obviously. Yep, Mark sends Marabou with his Tindy products. Oh, does he? Yeah, that was the one that that David received. I saw that in his post-back video. But sadly, I can't get those small pieces of chocolate here in Germany of that brand. And also it wouldn't be authentic because it's not a German chocolate or something like that. But I have some Marabou behind that curtain. I think it's not the normal one. It's the it's the special one. There's only one left. I bought like a whole box of them. This is the whole box. There are 15 pieces of the large ones go in there, and it's all empty. And I bought it, I don't know, not that long ago, but I got the Dame one left, which I'm sparing for bad times. So let's get back to coding, I guess. Enough distractions. Hey Chris, how's it going? Yeah, so the find tiles method I also already. Now you're making me feel like eating chocolate. Yeah, you should, if you never tried that particular brand, which is not to be talked about, you should get some. Oh yeah, you're right, Johnny. I forgot to plug it in. I turned on all the other stuff, but I forgot to turn on the bots. Oh no, now the bot fell on the floor. I hope it's still all connected. It seems so. Now everything should be working again. Everything great. I have to eat now though. Well, you joined the stream and now already eating again. So with the harsh green light in the background, my light here in front of me is a little bit puny. This should be better now. Now I get blinded while looking at the screen. Need to think about a better way of doing this. Also, it's a pretty harsh light from the bottom. It should be more like from the top, so I don't put my hands in front of it. Me, who has everything running off one extension lead at the side of this. The two extension leads daisy chain of each other. Well, I normally run the bots as well as the face cam and all my other mobile devices off of solar power. But the last 3 days have been really bad. A lot of really cloudy and rainy. So my battery is, my solar battery is almost empty, like 10% or so left. Even though this camera and the bots are still running off of solar power, because I have like 10-15 power banks which I fill up if I have enough power. So yeah, also these the light in front of me is also powered by solar power, and a lot of other things, like I charged the camera batteries with that and the desk lights, but those are now connected to mains. Yeah, and I also charged the camera batteries, which only include this 230 volt connector. You can't put in 12 volts directly, but I have an inverter, and that way I can also charge that, even though it's pretty much pathetic of creating creating 230 volts from 12 volts with the inverter and then down converting it to 7.2 volts, what this battery takes. I have a pretty similar system, except I have a double socket screwed to my desk and I just switch between the mains power and my inverter. That's also a cool idea. I also have a little socket right next to me which is connected to the solar system. So I also plug in stuff to that if I ever need. I need to look on my phone and see. My friend said that an adjacency list would be perfect for the use of storing the tiles interconnection. So an adjacency list in graph theory and computer science, an adjacency list is a collection of unordered lists used to represent a finite graph, which our whole LED wall technically is. Each list describes the set of neighbors. Let's make that a little bit larger. Each list describes the set of neighbors of a vertex in the graph. This is one of several commonly used representations of graphs for use in computer programs. So what does this mean? That pretty much means that the container, like for example the vector or the graph, contains an object And that object has references to all other objects it connects to. So for example, the first tile will be the first object of the adjacency list. And this object will have a reference to the tile which is connected to one side, the tile which is connected to the other side. Since we have the controller on the bottom, there's nothing there. And then the tile to one side, which could be the second tile, it could also be the one on the other side. It depends on how you go through the whole graph. Then this tile over here can have another tile connected down here or up here, but in the list of this tile, the adjacency list will have a reference to the first object or the first tile, then the one above it, and then the one to the left of it. So pretty much what is depicted right here. For the first tile, let's say for example the tile A is connected to B and C, then B is connected to B and C, and C is connected to A and B, which in our case would not be possible. B and C could not be connected. Computer science, fancy, yeah. You need to know the principles, because there you won't find any implementation of what this is. This is pretty much math or even reference Guido. Yeah, so implementation details. Associate each graph with the collection of its neighboring vectors, vertices, or edges. There are many variations of this basic idea differing in the details of how they were implemented, the association between vertices and collections, and how they implement the collections. Oh, Guido. He's the guy that invented Python. Oh, so you opened the same site, maybe. Yeah, so technically we could use the Boost Graph library, which implements the adjacency list, but this might be a little bit overkill for the ESP, because we would also need to have STL and everything. So let's see. First example was him. Oh yeah, Guido van Rossum. An implementation suggested by Guido van Rossum uses a hash table to associate each vertex in a graph with an area of adjacent vertices. In this representation, a vertex may be represented by any hashable object. There is no explicit representation of edges as objects. With an array of adjacent vertices. Yeah, so this implementation is pretty much you have a table which identifies each vertice or vertex of all of them. So you have a hash table which has A, B, and C, and then each vertex, A, B, and C, have their own array of adjacent vertices. I'm actually doing a software development course this year, so what's it on? There's no explicit representation of edges. So what are other? Common et al. Suggests implementation in which the vertices are represented by index numbers. Their representation uses an array indexed by vertex number, in which the array cell for each vertex points to a singly linked list of neighboring vertices of that vertex. In this representation, the nodes of the singly linked list may be interpreted as edge objects. However, they do not store the full information about each edge. They only store one of the two endpoints of the edge in in undirected graphs there will be two different linked list nodes for each edge. This one. Yeah, probably the link was removed. The object-oriented incidence list structure suggested by Goodrich and Tamesia has special classes of vertex objects and edge objects. Each vertex object has an instance variable pointing to a collection object that lists the neighboring edge objects. In turn, each edge object points to the two vertex objects at its endpoints. This version of Adjacency List uses more memory than the version in which adjacent vertices are listed directly, but the existence of explicit edge objects allows it extra flexibility in storing additional information. Well, I can't interestingly see that. Which means for us, we could do something like tile vertex, and the tile vertex will then, I don't like this, the tile vertex will then have, if I look at this again, will then have a tile vertex reference to let's see, side A, A, B, and C. Maybe even a pointer, because then it can be null easily and we can easily work with that. So technically we could do a class tile vertex, and let's not look at the constructor and destructor for now, which has side A, B, and C, and the sides being, we defined them in the PCB first. So the bottom side is A, if I'm not mistaken the right side is B and the left side is C, but we can look that up. So this is PCB A, which is the bottom one, I know that. If we do B, which one are you? Okay, we don't see that in here. We need to look at the PCB. Okay, side B is on the left, I guess, then. No, it's clockwise then. A, B, and C. Oh no, we can figure that out by looking at the tile A. I'm just dumb. We need to look at the PCB though. So we need to check what's here. So side C connects on the right and side B connects on the left. So left side is side B and right side is side C. So with storing it, the vertex sees this way, we also know which tile is connected to which side. So we not only get the, so if we would store it in a list, which would be interchangeable, if you, for example, would have a rectangular tile, then a list would be better, because then we could use the same implementation for that. But on the other side, with storing the data in a list, we lose this information of side A, B, and C, because if we only have two sides or one side connected, the list will only have one item, and we can't differentiate between which side is now connected. But if we have pointers in here, we can check if it is a null pointer or not, and if it is a null pointer, we know that there is nothing connected. So we could then go ahead and store this tile vertex in a map, and then mapping the tile ID, which we set over here, to that vertex. So we would have a hash map hashing or mapping integers to tile vertices. But now the problem arises if we have hash map support on Arduino C++ hash map ESP8266 Arduino hash at master. No, that is something completely different. Map container. Yes, I would like to use std map. I'm trying to use map to list of lines to link with, but in the mega project. That could be an issue. One thing that we could do is store the tile ID inside the tile vertex class, but then we would have to implement our own search algorithm to find a tile, which is slow. Also, I think there are better ways of doing this, but that will need time to think about it, because this is not an easy task to come up with something like this. So we would have to see. Maybe I will need to take the weekend and check something out what I will do. But we could still work with this for now, at least, because we could still. Let me check one thing. I need to go to software, Arduino, portable packages, ESP8266 dictionary. Is there a dictionary implementation? Dictionary. I would like to see the source of that. So let's. Probably won't be in here, I guess. Or decode this. No, that's not the right stuff. Libraries. We could use a vector and then store the tile ID inside here, which would work because I think vectors, we got vectors. If I can spell that correctly. Yeah, we have a vector implementation. No, that's something else. ESP82 is a vector. Wasn't there something that vectors are available? Yeah, let's use a vector for now so we can make progress on this. So let's do an std vector tile vertex and then call that tiles. We need the correct include, I guess. Technically it should be include vector. No definition found. Ah, that sucks. Let's see. Right, we also need to do where is it? It's null pointer. So we don't get an error with the default constructor. Let's uncomment that for now and then have that void do equals default. That should also do the trick. So yeah, that works. We have the vector implementation. We can then do we can remove found tiles. We can do vector tiles dot. No, we can't. Oh, this is a tricky one. So we know right here that we found a tile and that we configured it, but we don't know what the other tiles are connecting to this one right here. So the issue is that we can create the tile vertex, but let's do not default for now. We need to do constant uint at identifier, and then also have a uint at identifier. We just do is. So the identifier gets initialized inside the initializer list. Probably we should do something like this, so we don't get issues with other objects being called the same, or with other variables being called the same. So right here we would do tiles dot push back, and then we don't need to write tile vertex, but we would do current tile ID. And then in the next iteration, we would need to assign to that. So what we do is have a tile vertex. Let's do it like this. Tile vertex equals current tile ID. So current tile is that. If we find current tile, we do tiles.push back current tile. We would need to do something like a while, not done, bool done equals false. And this will do everything. And we need to have something done equals something. Oh, this one is hard. Yeah, that would be one way. You could do a recursive function, but you can also, so one thing that I got taught was you can always do a recursive function or a loop. And the loop is technically better for the compiler and as well memory usage, because if you do a recursive function, you always need to store the stack or the parts of you always need to push to the stack, and then so for each fork you do or recursive call, you push the current state to the stack. So if you have to do a lot of recursive calls, then you will get a stack overflow. If you are doing it with a loop, you won't have that issue because you don't call a function recursively. So technically using a loop is the but you will not go very deep anyway. Well, if I would take a tile and connect all of the other tiles to the left side of that tile, then yes. And in the right direction. So let's say if this is side B and I connect the other tile in that way, that side B is also over there, or side A, then I would run into that issue maybe. Yeah, but we could also do a recursive function, but do we only need to do right-left discovery? Because the tile has 3 sides, and hi Samuel. The tile has 3 sides, and depending on what side is connected to the last tile, I'm trying to confuse Emily, seems to work. No. Depending on the last tile we connected, we need to now... So depending on the sides value we get here, we need to decide on which side to try again. So what I wanted to do is have something like this. And then current tile becomes the next tile down here. What I also wanted to do is last tile for now equals current tile. Will that compile? Yes. So because one thing we can also do is, instead of recursively going into one direction of the tiles, we can take the current tile, look to the left, and then look to the right. And if there's something, we store that, and then we need to go to the left tile next. Yes, we need to keep track of everything. Because the controller could be connected to side A, B, and C, and then those sides which are not connected to the controller could also be connected to sides A, B, and C of all other tiles. But that's why we have the tile vertex storing side A, B, and C. So if we assign a tile to one of these sides, we know at least that side A of this tile is connected to the other tile somehow. Technically, we would need to know. Oh yeah, we know that because the next tile would have the other side, this tile as would have a reference to this tile from the other side, or a pointer. So this is not that easy. Normally I would take a piece of paper and write down stuff. And this is only half of the solution, so if we don't get an answer, there could also be an already configured tile, which would mess up everything. Because if there is any already configured tile, then IDs could overlap, and that is bad. So one thing that the controller should do is reset all the tiles, but this way, yeah, we have pointers both ways, because each tile stores a pointer to all other tiles it is connected to. So for example, if you have tile 1 and tile 2, and they are connected both on side A, then tile 1 would have a pointer to tile 2 on side A, and tile 2 would have a pointer to tile 1 also on side A. So both would have a pointer right here. So that works out. But you need to know the first tile first in order to find the next tile and then know how it is connected. But yes, so current tile. I'm almost there at the point where I know what I need to do, because what I'm getting to is that really necessary? It depends on how you are to calculate the patterns. Well, this is only the tree structure for knowing how everything is interconnected to each other. You would then, from that, create another structure for controlling everything. Because this structure here with the vector is nice of knowing how many tiles exist, which tiles exist, and how they are interconnected. This is only half of everything we need. We then need another graph which just has all tiles and their rotation, and then we can interpolate that to our animation, but we are far away from that. Hello, back again, Chris Crafter. Yeah, so as I said, there's a lot to do. My friend said that because he also wants to do a little bit for this project, that he would use a graph, a structure for the structure, and then an algorithm to find all the graphs, as well as a tree for the communication. Yeah, but if that other structure handles the geometry, you only need outgoing pointers, 2 pointers per tile. Yeah, but there's a but. If I don't have the third pointer, I don't know how this tile is connected to the other one. Because if I only have outgoing ones, I know that side A is connected to tile X, but I don't know to which side that is connected on tile X. So it's a little bit harder than that. An option would be, if I only would store 2 pointers per tile, that I would store also which direction the tile is connected on that pointer. But then I would need 2 pointers in 2 directions, where I already have an enum. I have a tile orientation, side A, B, and C. Yeah, this is a pretty tricky one. But my idea was here, create a tile vertex for the current tile. Let's get rid of the last tile. Then find that tile. If that tile exists, we push it into the vector. And then we check the 3 sides of the tile. And by checking the 3 sides, we then push back all the other tiles. And after that, we traverse through the vector. So our while loop would become while tiles dot has next or something like that. Don't have an I need documentation on the vector std vector cpp reference. We need to have a iterator. So std iterator. Oh. This has become a lot of fun very quickly. Iterator, iterate over vector iterator. Programming Java all day long at work is not good for your C++ skills. It's getting interesting. Why do you think it's getting interesting? Because it's getting really hard and complex. So I don't know. Oh, there was a thing, iterate over vector while appending elements. This looks really weird. I'm a software architect after all. Easy coding is for junior developers and front-end people. I wouldn't say that. Front-end is well, programming the front-end is not that hard, but coming up with the idea of the front-end, that's the tricky part. Could we technically do... All right, so for auto iterator equals tiles.begin, which is the start of the vector, et not equals tiles.end, which is the end of our container, and then we do ++it. I think that it should not work if we are oh, yeah, Stack Overflow. Wouldn't diff is I minus vector dot begin. Then push back. All right, so this is the code we need for this to work. But more on that later. So, for the first tile, we need to do something special before we can do this, because we need at least one tile in our vector for it to work. And the controller has to first find the first thing. So we can copy this, I guess. Also, to do reset all tiles at reset ID command. Yeah, so select tile connected to controller. Yes, we do that. Then we call a tile. If we found the tile, we set the tile ID and then we just push it back. We don't need, we need the current tile ID. We don't need that anymore. We don't need current tile, because current tile now becomes our iterator. Ooh, CircuitPython 6 beta 1 is near. What does that mean? It's probably exciting, but what are the features or benefit? So if we found our first tile, we just push it inside our thing. ESP32S2 support. Oh yeah, that's nice. Oh, we almost have it. So technically, I'm thinking about the way. Technically, the controller could be tile 0, because he is the first thing, but the first tile ID is 1. So technically, the first tile could be the controller. So we could just add a tile with ID 0 and then do our loop here, but that would need some more complicated stuff, because then the controller, then we would need to add some code or expand the set tile ID and call tile functions. That these two would need to know that we are calling tile 0, which doesn't make any sense. But I'm thinking now, wait a second. So the idea is to find whatever tiles are next to the tile which are inside the tiles thing. So what I'm thinking is we do current tile ID equals 0, no, equals 0. We then do tiles, we just do tiles push back and then a tile with ID 0. And we need to note that tile 0 is the controller. And then in this implementation right here, what we do is we take our tile, so tile vertex current tile equals iterator, I guess. Is that correct? Oh, probably making rookie mistakes. But all right, so we don't need this up here anymore. We need to know if current tile dot get ID, that will be u int ID, get ID, return m identifier, current tile dot get ID equals 0. Yes, that looks far more promising. Current tile equals 0. We do this right here. Yes, it does. That's exactly what it does. I think you know, Johnny, you are understanding what's going on here. So the call to unconfigured tile will return on which side it sees a low value. But the issue here being that technically a tile can have 2 low values, so we might need to reset the values, which is fine. But we won't be able to find circles that way. Because for a circle, we would need to know if, or we would know that 2 sides are 0, for example. That is also a specific edge case. But if current tile equals 0, we do that, and else we do something different. But current tile ID equals 1. Oh no, let's do we have communication on each side, and we have an extra pin connected to each side, which is separate from the communication. And the controller pulls that pin of the connected side low, and the microcontroller, if we do the call tile command, will return which sides have been pulled low. So if all sides are low, we know that all sides are low. If one side is low, we know that one side is low. So here we do tile vertex found tile, and then the current tile ID. Oh no, maybe not. Still don't get why several sides would be low. Isn't it putting it? For the first tile not, but we can select which tile should pull its side low, because we don't have a controller on each tile. So if we set up the first tile, that tile becomes the controller being controlled by the controller, if that makes sense. So if the first tile is initialized and got its ID, then the controller can tell that tile to pull low, for example, this side right here, and then this tile will be able to be communicated with through the controller, because we don't want all tiles to answer us whenever we do the call tile function, because then the bus will be just full of junk data. Or we could technically set the ID of 2 tiles at the same time, which will also be bad. So we don't push back current tile, we push back a new tile with current tile ID. Probably do current tile ID ++ right here and then do that. Maybe. So let me think. So this is the first tile. So tile 0 will be the controller. Yeah, but the current controller can only pull one side low. So how can 2 be low at the same time? Yeah, I think I explained that. Or I need to make a drawing or something. ++ current tile ID, if set tile ID current tile ID tiles dot push back current tile ID. So we create a new tile right here, but what we need to do is, no, not that. Tile vertex found tile current tile ID, and then we do a switch on sides.get, and the controller moves to the just discovered tile, which can only pull one side of its neighbor. Yeah, it can pull every side technically, but in theory it should only pull one line of its neighbor, and then we go through everything. So the tile sides, oh no, we can't do that. Switch won't work. We need to do if yeah, but the issue with that is that, yeah, it probably will be fine. But if we only pull one line, and if we have a circle, then this tile should be already configured and this not. So maybe this tile should be configured and this not. So this would try to pull low this line of this tile over here, and then we will try to call the tiles, but this tile won't answer because it has already been set up. So we don't know that these tiles are connected to each other. So or maybe, wait, no, that's wrong, because if we start with this tile, we check left and right. But I think this issue can still exist. So if sites.get, no, not if sites.get. We need to do no, sites.get and then current site equals that, and then if current site dot tile sites site A yeah, or we have to see, I'm not sure on that. Else if has site B site C. They are equilateral triangles, right? Yes. Do the triangles themselves know their orientation? No. The controller knows its orientation, and from that we are trying to work out all the other orientations. But from knowing which side called back here, we know what the other sides are connected to. So where were I? So what we need to do now is we need to add the setter functions. Set site A, and then we do a tile vertex reference tile, and then do m site A equals tile. Probably wrong, but let me just see. Don't think that pointers work that way. But let's see what the compiler has to say about that. I need to uncomment this. Let's make lots of suggestions, only a few related to what he is doing right now will be funny. I will just end the stream and then you are screwed. Wait, get element of iterator. What was that again? We need pointer iterator, right? C++. Iterator. Back from my cooking session, what did I miss? A lot of pain. I hope what you were cooking is make them hexagons. No, no way. Samuel can do that. Samuel can use this legacy code then and make a hexagon code from that. So we can't do this because we need to get the object of the iterator where it is pointing to. So this is one issue. Oh, what is going on here? Oh, this is wrong. That needs to be a semicolon. What do you have to say about that? Yeah, cannot convert tile vertex to tile vertex pointer. But is this the correct way? Oh, my pointer knowledge is outdated. No, then wait. So this should be right. I would actually start in the rendering code and then work out what data structure I would need to lay it out on the tiles. Well, that's if you do it bottom up or top down. Oh, I'm just dumb. Obviously this needs to be a void function. Didn't even read the, I just assumed that the reference was wrong. Heavy Why? Why, Johnny? I know all the models, the V module, the extreme programming. I don't know about you. So, if the current side of the tile was... Oh, wait a second. If the current side of the tile was that, then current tile dot set side A needs to have the current side. And we just copy that and do B and C. I just call mine agile, that shuts up people. Oh, everyone calls their model agile. In fact, it is shooting from the hip programming. It's knowledge programming. Alright, so if no, this is wrong. We need to rename this found sites. We need to do this, otherwise it will get messy. Also did something wrong there. But not tell anyone. Oh no, everyone knows. I will tell Mark. My way is buckshot. Something probably will hit. Well, I think if you do it from the ground up, then you already have the back end, and then the rest of the stuff with which is one layer higher will only get easier. So you could also do top down and start with the easy stuff and then dive into the hard stuff, but I like to get the hard stuff done where Mark works for me, not the other way around. Well, Mark can complain then. So and then we push back the found tile, and for that we need to do that. Else. So this looks right to me now. I don't know if it looks right for you, but this is only half of the code, and the other half will be harder, I guess. Well, I actually start with the external API. It has to be easy to use, and then move into the business layer from there. Yeah, that's also the way I would do it. But if you already have the backend and everything, you can do the API based on that already. You are currently learning TDD, test-driven development. Yeah, that is a pain for a solo project. Test-driven development, oh yeah, but it's great for a large project where a lot of stuff can go wrong, and then having the test first will make sure that everything works correctly in the end. But then the tests have to be really good. But that's the case of test-driven development, I guess. Current tile. So the current tile is obviously our controller, which is just tile 0. So if we get the one with 0, we just do call tile because we don't have to select between sides. We just want to know which side is connected to the controller. But did I need to rethink that? Current tile. No, this is wrong. It should be found tile set side A current tile. Because we set the pin low, and the found tile says, okay, this is side A. So from the perspective of the found tile, we know side A is connected to our current tile. But we don't know which side of the current tile is connected to the found tile. So this needs to be the other way around. I've been using TDD for my current project because I'm solo and have no testers. Well, you can technically mix and match everything and say it's one or the other. So what does this do? So iterator would be the begin, we subtract that, then we push back our tile, and then we are still, then we add that difference to begin, and then we are still at the iterator where we were before. Because otherwise pushback would change the iterator maybe. So if we then go around, we should get to the next index, and then we should see that the tile ID is 1, which would mean we would go into here, and then we have to do the great stuff. So maybe we should do also void has side A. Oh, bool has side A, and then we do return my side A not equals null pointer. Oh, I used the wrong brackets. And we don't need that, and we need that. No, no, it's right. A, B, C. A, B, C. We wrote a program where we were asked to write a test method to uppercase method. Nice. Used to uppercase inside the test. For testing, I mean. All right, you are right, Johnny. If we do it this way, then probably always only 2 of these are going to be set, and also the other way around is not going to be set. So for the controller, we could technically, doesn't really matter. But we need somehow a reference to the issue is doing it this way. We only know one direction, but we also need to know the reverse direction. So for tile 1, if there is a side, oh dear. All right, let's just first continue with the basic algorithm. So the next step is, if we have a tile, then we need to implement a new command. So what we need to do is, we have call tile and set tile ID. We also need a boolean set tile side, and then we can use tile sides side because I already prepared that. Then we pretty much copy this piece of code, look into our controller, and the set side command is set sides command. Need to write 0x04, and then we write the identifier. So we also need constant uint8 t tile ID. Let's do it that way. So oh, that looks awful. All right, so set tile side, tile ID, and side. So we need to add oh no, wait. Let's do tile side this way. I wanted to have it that way, so we can switch. ABC maybe, let's do none also, we need that to reset. So then the next value will be the side. And that will be the bit. So we need to convert the side into the correct bit. So oh yeah, we need the tile ID, and then we need the side byte. So byte, side, byte 0, and then we do switch side, and then we have side A. Oh, the stream should be over again. Side A, B, and C. And then we just set, probably we don't need the default case. For side A, we set side byte to 1, B is 2, and then 4. So 0x01, 0, 0, 2, 4, and that should do the trick. Technically, we don't need to do that inside the loop. Yeah. Yes, that's what that was what I was mentioning. But technically, for that test, you can do edge case testing. For example, take a string which is all uppercase, and then do the 2 uppercase on a lowercase string and see if that worked. Then have an uppercase string, input in the 2 uppercase, and test that with a real uppercase string, and then do the same with mixed ones, with mixed characters, and then do the same with yeah, that's probably all of them. And then do that for some random amounts of, or lengths of strings. Or the largest possible string, like memory constraint wise. Right, so we need to check the reply. That should be 4. Oh, I don't know if we even get a reply. We get the 81040A. We don't get U. 0, 2. Wait. Yeah, 3 of them. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 here, and then 3 here. And then this needs to be 3. Never checked if these are all correct, but yeah. Or do you convert? Yeah, that's also something. Including Chinese, yes. If you want to do proper testing, then you should need to do that. So if we can't set the tile side, we have a big issue. So in this case, we do set tile side, current tile ID, and then tile side A. Oh, I don't know if Chinese characters are just uppercase Japanese characters. So the procedure here would be doing this. So we do set tile side A, B, and C, and then we do the same of what we did over here. So if we copy this, then do that here, 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 then I think it should work out. We can obviously remove the duplicate code, but let's think for a second. So current tile ID will be 1 in this case. And we say tile 1 set side A. Technically, we could exclude the sides where we found the tile on. Let's make a little note to do exclude sides where there is already a tile attached, because otherwise it will be just unnecessary to send all these commands. Yeah, it will be hard to test this with only one tile. We need to do that next week when hopefully all the parts arrive. But I just wanted to prepare the code a little bit so we have something to work with and don't need to start from scratch. So let's think about it. We said that's the last thing we will do today. So we set side A of the first tile, which would be the one below, which wouldn't make sense because that's generally where the controller would sit, but the tile could be rotated. We then call for new tiles. So the tile which would be connected to that one would answer us. If we find the tiles, we increase our current tile ID, which is bad because we need to reset the tile ID before we go here, because that would mess up the code. So that's one thing to keep in mind. In this case it doesn't matter, but here current tile ID should be... Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. This can go. We can do uint8 current tile ID equals current tile dot get ID. And then we will make this constant to make sure it doesn't get altered. And then we do constant uint8 found tile ID equals plus plus current tile ID. So here we will use found tile ID and we will copy that over. That way, alright, you can just copy the whole thing, I guess. So that way we just fixed the issue we just had. So if we find an ID, we will just increment the current tile ID, which is also a problem. Haha, this doesn't work in this case, because then all these three tiles would get the same tile ID. Oh, this is bad. In this case, we would need to make found tile ID global. We need to think about that. To do fix found tile ID. So this is what I was mentioning, Johnny. So if you go through it very clearly from the ground up, you will find a lot of issues right away without even testing the code. And that way you can get to the point where you just write the code, think of it a lot, and then after that it will just work without ever being tested once. Which I already had some. So I was programming something on work, or at work, and I was thinking about it a lot, and it just worked without issues, and I didn't need to fix anything. But I never had that before, I guess. Fix found tile ID. So let's continue. The found tile ID will be current ID plus that plus 1, which is not correct all the time, but we then set the tile ID. If it works first time, it's a bug. No, not always. Set tile ID, and then if we set the tile ID, we say, or now that we know that this is side A of our current tile, we can do found side has side A, found tile set side A, but we can also do current tile. We can also do current tile dot set side A found tile, and this we can do in all cases. So and for the one here, we can do current tile set side B found tile, and for this one down here, we can do current tile set side C found tile, and then we have both directions. I had a spell error, I had a spell error buff today. It was ISQL. It was an SQL statement, so the compiler didn't catch it. Yeah, SQL statements are also fun to debug. I also had to write a lot of code with SQL for my work because we needed to have a database where you can so if you start the software, it will, if the database is not at the version that it needs, then it will automatically update it to a newer version while applying SQL statements which change the tables and stuff. Oh, MongoDB, no, MariaDB or MySQL. Yeah, so in all these cases we can do current tile set side A found tile, and then we push back the found tile. So in the next iteration we will look at the found tile, but for that one we can then exclude all the sides. So this should work. If we run this, this should give us the correct table. And in our case, we should even be able to upload that, and it should technically work. Let's just try it. All right, that's the first issue. Tile side does not name a type. Wait a second, where? Okay, we have a redeclaration here. Can fix that this way. We can't change. So this would be 1 plus that, and this should also become 1 plus that, and this should also become 1 plus that. And you should also become 1 plus that. We use Elasticsearch for non-SQL stuff. Don't you just love red text on black? Red text on black? Where? Elasticsearch? I don't know. A tile site does not name a type. ESO forbids declaration of site with no type. Yeah, I'm dumb. I'm a dumb compiler. So what's the issue with the enum? C++ enum. What is this? Zinc pills. Nice. I don't know what that has to do with C++ enum. Isn't it enum declaration? Isn't it right? What's your issue? That can't be right. Wait. Would work fine for colorblind people. Typedef enum. Ah. You mean typedef enum or constant typedef tile site? I mean, I'm probably faster trying it out than you writing it in the comments. That can't be right. It doesn't seem right. Pass enum to function. Oh. Ah, now I get it. Too much Java. Too much Java for me. Yes, I already fixed it. See, that's what I said. I'm probably faster than you telling me in the chat. No. Ah. Enum that. But why doesn't it work for me? Oh wait, enum. Ah. Someone says your way was right. Yeah. Use of enum without previous declaration. I hate you. I want at least to compile and test. Enum days, braces, that's what I have. Enum tile side braces. $185, which is the function itself. Let's do a forward declaration. Maybe now Arduino will figure it out. Maybe we need the type def enum thing. What? Using type def name tile side after enum. Remove where the enum in the function. That's what it was like before. I need to... No. Isn't that pathetic? Well, I guess this is going to be it for today. I will probably figure this out, and next week, the next stream will be probably next week on Monday. Hopefully I will get the stuff from JSC PCB until then. Otherwise we will still have to think about the code, which I will work on the weekend a little bit and see. We'll also probably be working on a new video this weekend and releasing it on my YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. Stack Overflow for the win. Did you find a solution or what? Yeah, so I know today is Thursday, but I won't stream on Friday, so I can already wish every one of you a nice weekend, and we will probably, or you will probably see me again on Monday. Oh, you are a real YouTuber now. Yeah, at least I'm making videos instead of you, Johnny. And don't have 50,000 subscribers without doing anything. No more Twitch nonsense. I will probably switch back to Twitch on Monday. So yeah, I will probably be back on Twitch because it's easier with the bot integrations and stuff, and I pretty much like it more there because the what do I want to say? The latency is a little bit less there, and Dustin Watts probably sent a link. Does this not work? YouTube actually stopped promoting my channel now. Only took them 2.5 years. Yeah, what a weird thing. So have a nice evening. Thanks for you all guys watching. by Johnny, by Dustin, by Henrik, by Samuel. No, who else was here? By Vio and by Chris, if you're still watching. No, I have said every single name, I guess. So until